What is up, DTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit about. I was reading a post on a website that I want to sort of go over a little bit in this video, and sort of I heard on the radio. I think it was 2 days ago. It was a little bit. You sort of start to hear it a little bit that this word cryptocurrency is starting to move a little bit more into the mainstream masses. So I heard it on the radio, and it was something about the European Union, about Facebook Libra, how they sort of they consider banning it. Or first of all, I want to say this: when I see these things, the first thing that sort of appears in my mind is, well, first of all, they don't even understand how the technology works. So how would they ban it? Especially all this technology that's like, well, they sort of invented this technology, so the way it works is decentralized. Now I know you can, in theory, sort of shut down everything, but if you understand how this sort of system works, they are working in a framework where if you implement some kind of regulation, it takes many years to sort of so-called enforce it. And now stuff is moving so fast. So the idea, and also that they're not even playing in the same system, like using other technology. So it's like you start to hear it a little bit, starts to come up a little bit more in the mainstream, and communicating with the mainstream, of course, is uh, is a skill in and of itself, where they sort of trying to, or they drip out. You can drip out a little bit of information to the mainstream. So the mainstream here, oh, something about crypto, something about ban, and then it becomes a little bit the blind leading the blind, and nobody's really understanding anything. So that's why I'm doing these videos, because I sort of want to drip out a little bit of stuff here and there, and then people can sort of a little bit follow, kind of maybe explore the Steam blockchain and sort of try to go a little bit deeper into it. Be in this space. I mean, you're learning new stuff daily, so you realize how ignorant you are. Even after 2 years, I learn stuff daily, and it's humbling. So I want to talk a little bit about European Union and speech, because I was reading this post, and I see this kind of articles sometimes, and there is a thing that sort of I want to clarify, like, my view of this. So if I read the kind of the title first, the Court of Justice of the European Union limits free speech. So I'm gonna read a long quote here. This judgment has major implications for online freedom of expressions around the world. The ruling also means that a court in one of the EU member states will be able to order removal of social media posts in other countries, even if they're not considered unlawful there. That would set a dangerous precedent where the courts of one country can control what internet users in another country can see. This could be open to abuse, particularly by regimes with weak human rights. So my first sort of approach on this is, well, they are sort of realizing the limitations, first of all, with the technology that they're playing in. So take the limitations, for example, with uh, with having apps or having services that one private company is earning all the profits, and the users are not really earning anything, and it becomes already from that mode the consumer and the private company, in a way it turns already there, the relationship people have to each other, the consumer and the private company, it becomes already open to abuse, where the consumer don't really have that much really influence, and yeah, they don't really have that much influence, and they're, yeah, so and they are sort of at the mercy of what the sort of private company wants to do. So the first aspect of this is they are of course looking at this technology, and they're sort of realizing that people want to talk, the consumer wants sort of more influence on these the current networks that they sort of are aware of. So for example, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So you're starting to see this trend. Okay, the consumer sort of wants more sort of influence on these platforms. But of course, as we know, like the way I'm looking at this is, well, first of all, they are talking about it from the limited data that they have about this technology, where they're just looking at the current technology and looking at it because they don't understand like this new technology that comes out, like the decentralized systems that like works better. They are just talking about the old sort of systems, and from their limited data that they've gathered, sort of they see no other choice than, well, it looks, because on the old systems it looks like humans are more crazy than what they actually are, but the core dilemma here is that the consumer, first of all, is not even in a respectful position, where they sort of feel that the private company is just using them for profit, and that already sets a problematic sort of so-called battlefield, where the consumer is trying to sort of build themselves up, but they sort of realizing the limitations in the field that they sort of are playing in with this with a centralized system that doesn't really have their best interest at heart, because, well, they have their own sort of agenda and so on. And so in a way, when people are, in some ways, it's kind of interesting that people's awareness are increasing a little bit and they're writing these articles. But I think that people, in many ways, like regular consumers, they sort of also have to come to realization eventually that, well, you have to sort of make a full switch to better platforms. And I think the more people are starting to realize that it's never really going to work on the old technology, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. These old systems, never will you be able to sort of ever get like a balanced, respectful roles there, because you need to be on a decentralized systems. And the only decentralized system at the moment that can sort of pull this off is Steam blockchain, and that's just in a beta. But it's like, so the amount of data and the amount of more knowledge that users are having, that are sort of starting to dive deeper into understanding of modern digital networks. I mean, they have such a deeper layer understanding of things, and they sort of understand that they are playing more in a more freer system, but that also takes responsibility. So people on decentralized blockchain like the Steam blockchain, they eventually realize, okay, you're giving more freedom here in a way, but it also means that the users need to use proof of brain and prove that they are responsible. And I think that that eventually seems to be working eventually, because majority of people want a responsible proof of brain ecosystem that benefits the whole sort of ecosystem. So when so we're seeing these. So for example, one aspect that people are not looking into here, for example, with, oh yes, European Union, that they can like ban social media stuff and all of this. I mean, eventually that's going to drive people more towards decentralized ecosystems. That eventually, in many ways, is going to be better, because these older systems, with inferior technology, they can never become fair. They just can't, because the interest on different sides is, I mean, is it doesn't favor the consumer. So yes, so what basically would happen is, the more these older platforms becomes, let's say, less respectful to the regular consumer, eventually they're gonna seek out better systems that are more fair, that are using proof of brain, and that have people that have an interest to sort of keep the ecosystem whole, and not trying to create a bunch of, let's say, drama all the time, but trying to, like, it's very annoying with these older systems, with worse technology, how it's very, very hard to really empower someone and actually show that you actually care about empowering them, because Well, people don't have that much influence over there. So yeah, I mean, old technology, and people should be aware that in many ways they have no clue how these new sort of systems work. And also, what's kind of interesting is that eventually people are going to realize with these new systems that it's win-win for everyone. Uh, really, it's like there's nobody that's really losing in these new systems when everyone owns a share in the network. It's actually a win-win for everyone. But new technology always tends to, yeah, it's very disrupting. And it's not a one-time thing that, oh, suddenly everyone's using something new. No, it's something that it's a gradual shift. It's a gradual transformation in in what people are using. It's going to go faster when people get better smartphones, when people get better technology, but it's still going to take some time. But when people like see the experience overall eventually on this new system, they see that it's more inclusive. They are probably not going to go back to the old, because it does not make that much sense to go back to something that is not as good. So we're seeing a lot of disruption right now, a lot of chaos, but eventually it's going to make so people reorganize the way they're looking at things, use more intelligence, and sort of realize, well, maybe I should use this that is used better. And then eventually you're going to start to see kind of like a shift to better systems. Yeah, have a great day.